Hey, this is Ryan with Mama on Mission, and today is our final segment of the homeschool curriculum review subject by subject. And just a reminder, this is a collaboration, so check out the playlist below for some other great homeschooling content and to learn about different curriculums for the 4 subjects we've covered, which have been history and geography, language arts, science, and now math. And this collaboration is hosted by April over at The Simple Rugged Path, Michelle at The Brave Homeschooling Mama, and Ashley at Joyful Noise Living. I will link all 3 of their channels below. They are all 3 great homeschooling channels that you can get great advice from and just take a look inside someone else's home for any schooling ideas. So for this year, and this is actually the only math curriculum we've ever used, we have done Saxon. Surprise, surprise, if you've been around for any length of time at all, you know that we are huge Saxon fans over here. It is not for everyone. I already know this. I've heard lots of people say it's really dry, it's really boring. But to me, I'm like, it's just math. Like, it doesn't change. Let's just get straight to the point. Like, I don't need a lot of frills in math, and my boys don't seem to need them either. So for my kindergartner, we used Saxon Math K. And I mentioned before, he is a young kindergartner. He will not be 6 until after he starts first grade. He has an end of August birthday. So I really hesitated in starting him in kindergarten math, but he was really eager to do it, so we just went ahead and tried it, and he was so excited about it and frankly so good at it that we ended up doubling up. We started off just 1 lesson per school day, and then he loved it so much that we ended up doubling up on it, and we ended up finishing this quite a while ago, not long after semester, I don't think. So we've had to kind of supplement some stuff because I didn't quite want to put him already into first grade math. So for the first part of the year, this is what he used. I'll give you a little example. I'm not going to go into too much depth because there are tons of Saxon reviews online. If you would like me to answer a specific question, I'd be more than happy to do so. Or if you want to see a specific thing inside here, I'd be glad to do that. But I'm not going to waste our time if that's not what you're looking for, because you can find stuff like that all over the internet. So what you have for each lesson is this dark box always gives you what materials you're going to need and what you might need to do beforehand, which is always very helpful for me. The materials that you will typically use with any Saxon K through 3rd grade is they have like a manipulatives box, and I did go ahead and buy that right out. I got all of our books secondhand really cheap, so I kind of could justify spending, I think it was like $70 for the manipulatives kit. And I know you can piece that together elsewhere, so you do not have to spend that much money if this is something you're looking at. But you can if you just want it all put together and not have to worry about trying to piece it all together. So they'll use things like pattern blocks and counting bears and a scale and rulers. I'm trying to think what else is in there. Tangrams. I'm not sure if they use those in kindergarten or not, but I'm just trying to think of anything that's in that. There's little counting tiles, if I didn't say that already. There's shapes, there's linking cubes, any of that good stuff that they can use hands-on, which is one reason why my boys love Saxon, is that almost every lesson has something to touch and to do. It's not just listen to me talk and do a worksheet. It's very hands-on, even though it looks nice and boring. And then they have what is called the meeting. When my oldest was in kindergarten, we did all of this every day. But it kind of takes a long time. But it's going over stuff like your calendar, your time, I think the weather maybe. I might be wrong on that. But you count money. I don't know about in kindergarten. I can't really remember. But things like that. Money, weather, time, counting, skip counting, things like that. And you have what's called a meeting book where you write in your calendar day and stuff like that. I did all of that with my first kid. With my second son, Jonas, we did not do that because I saw how time consuming it was. And instead, for both Jude and Jonas, we used daily learning notebooks from Erica from Confessions of a Homeschooler. I couldn't think of her name for a minute. And that kind of covers all that stuff. We talk a little bit about money in there. We talk about weather and time and all that kind of stuff over there, and it's a lot shorter and a lot less involved. So what I would do instead for Jonas is I would just kind of skim over what they were going to go over in the meeting for the day. And if there's something that I thought that he didn't quite have a grasp on, we would just kind of touch on it, but not like do it to a T. And then you finally get to the lesson, which is all scripted. What you would say as a teacher is in bold print, and then what they want you to do would be in the regular print. If you'd like to take a look at that. And typically in kindergarten, it's just a very short and sweet hands-on lesson. What typically takes the most time is that meeting if you choose to do it. And if there is, with kindergarten, there wasn't really any worksheets. There was a few masters. They'll have a small version of that in here to give you kind of a reference of what you will be using. But it comes with that packet of pages that they will have to use for certain lessons, but not every lesson has a master. And like I said, this was only for like the first semester, and look how thick that is. But he just is a math kid. He loves it, and we blew through it. I think every, I wrote it down somewhere. I'm pretty sure every 10 lessons, there's an oral assessment where you just ask specific questions, and sometimes it'll have a manipulative with it. And you just check on whether they can do whatever skill you've asked them to do. And it just kind of helps you keep track to make sure they're actually mastering whatever it is that they're learning. So then after semester, I didn't want to just drop math altogether, but I wasn't quite ready to move him up to first grade math. So I just I gave him some kind of assessment that I saw online, just to kind of help me gauge what he needed help on. And I saw that he needed help with time and money the most. And so I tried to find just a cheap Dollar Tree or Target Dollar Spot time and money workbook, because typically I can find those things everywhere. Well, lo and behold, when I go to actually find one, of course I can't. So the only one I found was at the Dollar Tree, and it is Disney Princess. And if any of you have a 5-year-old boy, you can imagine he wasn't too excited about this. So I said, please just do it, and every page that you do, I will give you a sticker, and you can do whatever you want with it. And he chooses to cover up their faces. Anyway, so he wasn't very happy about this, but it's doing what we need it to do. So it has, just what you would expect from this kind of worksheet. Fill in the clock, read the clock, write the time. We just started on the money portion. I think the second half deals with money. Yeah, we just started on this, matching the coins to their value, stuff like that. So he's enjoying that, other than the fact that it's a girl book. And then I also bought him this addition and subtraction one. He's pretty much a whiz on adding and subtracting, but this is just, he enjoys doing this, and it's just to kind of keep those skills sharp. So that's all we're doing for him right now. Also, we do like a page of those, like one page a day, and then after that, I'll either give him some sort of hands-on thing to do that's kind of math-based. Like we have one of those learning palettes from Usborne, and I'll put a math thing on there. I don't know what they're called, but and he'll do that. Or sometimes I will let him play the iPad, and we have a game called, I don't know, what is it called? We have a game called Mastering Math that I believe is an offshoot of ABC Mouse. We do have an ABC Mouse subscription, and I think it's just like an offshoot of that. So you might have to have an ABC Mouse subscription to get it, but you may not. It is a really good math game, but it's very like learning based. And then on to my second grader. We, like I said, just finished Saxon Math 2 yesterday, which is a big deal. Like, just knowing that we got through that much material, it just makes you feel real accomplished. So this is set up pretty similarly. Again, you always have this dark section that tells you the materials you're going to need and anything you might want to do beforehand. And again, the materials would be from that manipulatives kit, or it would be, we use a lot of money, or sometimes they'll have you like make up little cards with money amounts on them or something, which I sometimes do, sometimes don't. That's one thing I love about this is it's really not, as scripted as it is, it's really not that hard to make it your own and to make alterations where you need to adapt to your schedule, to adapt to your specific child, whatever your unique situation is. It's not that hard to kind of tailor it to what you need it to be. Again, they do have the meeting, and you're supposed to have the meeting book for that. We are not doing that this year, but again, I just scan it, and anything that I'm like, oh, we haven't really touched on that, I might bring up to him and see kind of where he falls, if he knows it or not. But things you might see in that: calendar, weather graph, counting, graphing, patterning, money, clock, and number of the day. But they do touch on all of these things during other lessons too. So it's not like if you don't do that, you won't be getting any of that at all. It's just keeping those skills sharp. So I figured with our daily learning notebooks that we're doing, we don't need the meeting, because again, it takes quite a while if you do everything like to a T as they ask you to. So then you go on to the lesson portion. And again, it is completely scripted, so you know exactly what to say. Sometimes I feel like their examples get a bit excessive, like how many problems they expect you to work out with your child. If it's needed, by all means, keep doing it until they get it. But I found oftentimes they might ask us to do like 10 different problems, and by the third problem, he gets it. And it's not just like a little addition problem. It's like talking through the steps. And I'm like, if you get it after the third time, I'm not going to make you do it 7 more times, you know. So again, we kind of like tailor it to what we need it to be. And then after that, on a typical lesson day, you will have what they call class practice. And there are usually some fact cards that you will need to let them practice with. So they're just like little flashcards with math facts on them. And then after they practice through those, then you give them a time test. That good old time test that you remember from elementary school if you're public school like me, that I hated, but I see the benefit in. I try not to put too much pressure on him. It's not like I'm going to fail you if you don't pass this, you know, but I just want him to be able to recall those facts quickly and make math easier for him in general. And you're supposed to, I think how they want you to do it is take the test and then grade it with them, and then make them finish the rest of the test untimed, just to practice. What I usually do is if he gets, on their little grading sheets, they have what's called acceptable, good, and excellent, I believe. If he gets less than acceptable, then I make him do 2 more lines of the problems. If he gets good, I only make him do 1 line. I think that's how I do it. No, if he gets acceptable, I make him do 1 line. If he gets below acceptable, he has to do 2 lines. If he gets good or excellent, then we call it good. And that's just to keep him practiced. And then there is what they call the written practice, which is just a worksheet. And the answer is right there. The answer key is right there mixed in with the lesson, which it's 2nd grade math. I could obviously grade this without an answer key, but it makes it a lot faster if I'm just trying to grade in a hurry. And how we approach the worksheets this year, because once you get through all of that stuff, even not doing the meeting, it's kind of a long day. So what they ask you to do is to do this first side of the worksheet with them. And then later in the day, go and do the second side of the worksheet. Have them do it kind of on their own, but then you help them if they need to, if they need you to. So what we did instead was I would make him, sometimes even before we had our math lesson, because Saxon is a spiral approach. So instead of just, you mastered this, move on to this, you master this, move on to this. You're climbing in an upward spiral, but you're constantly going back to things that you've learned before so that you don't forget them. And so I would make him, before the lesson even started most days, do this whole page while I was working with his brother. And I always said, if there's something that you're not familiar with, which means it's probably from today's lesson, just skip it and we'll do it later. And then after the lesson, he would fill in whatever ones he didn't do. And then I would go through and grade it with him. And then on the back, it's like the same problems, the same type of problem per number, but different questions, if that makes sense. Like down here, it's just a bunch of adding money and subtracting money. Well, down here, it's a bunch of adding and subtracting money. It's just different numbers, if that makes sense. So if he got something wrong on the front, then I would circle it, and he had to do that same one on the back. And then he would also, anything that was a new concept, he would have to do front and back just for the practice. So that's just a way that we kind of cut corners to make it not as big of a deal, because that was getting pretty tiresome, him having to do both sides of that worksheet, plus all of the lesson, plus the fact sheet every day. And that is all we did with him for math, because it was a lot. So Saxon is a very rigorous program. I've never used anything else, so I don't really know, but I've heard from others it's pretty rigorous. And kind of seeing some stuff that some other friends have used, I might have to agree. But again, you can tailor it to however you need it to be. And it's not pretty and it's not showy, but I mean, it's math. It's kind of a black and white subject, so I'm okay with black and white paper. And I mean, so far, he says he doesn't love math anymore. He used to love math. I think it's just more of a challenge now. So it's not his favorite subject, but he doesn't complain about it too much. So please check out the playlist below and get some more ideas on different curriculum for those 4 subjects that we have covered. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.